Hello everyone and welcome to a new video. Today I'm filming a recommendation video where I'm gonna recommend you 6 queer sci-fi and fantasy. I wanted to make a recommendation video because I feel like when I read a book I like talk about it once in my wrap up, maybe my TBR, and then I never mention them again on my channel. So I want to make new kinds of recommendation videos after, like, I don't know, plot, characters, tropes, genres, etc, etc, and in this case that all these books are queer and sci-fi or fantasy. This is also in kind of an honor to the book club I'm co-hosting called Faes and Gaze, where we read queer sci-fi and fantasy every single month. I will have, of course, linked the Discord and the Twitter down below, so you can go and join us for our monthly reads and discussions, and it's lots of fun. Like, it is just the greatest time with great people. So all the books in this video we actually read for Faes and Gaze, so that is why, like, I chose specifically, I was going to say, theme of this video and these books. That doesn't mean, of course, I don't read other queer books than these. I just wanted to make a whole dedicated video to all the picks we have read. So yeah, without further ado, let's get started. The first book we picked out in July 2020 was Gideon the Ninth by Tamsin Muir. This one is the first book in the trilogy called The Locked Tomb, and it follows Gideon, who lives on the planet of the Ninth House. She wants to escape but have been stopped many times by Harrow Hawk, or just Harrow, and she's the princess of the place they're living, and she also have necromancy powers. A short synopsis for this would be, and that I heard many times before picking it up, was that it has lesbian necromancers in space, and that's basically all you need to know to pick it up, because what more do you need to know? Either way, this composition starts by their god, and he invites all the, I was gonna say, royalty for the different houses to come and compete to become his new undying servant. So they will be immortal and work right underneath the god. He has like several really old servants that has a name, but I forgot. They go off to the planet together and are gonna be in this competition. It's mysteries, it's murders, everyone has like different necromantic powers, and it's great. I had read this before when we picked it up for the book club. I had listened to the audiobook because I didn't have the physical copy available at the time, and then I reread it physically when I was reading it for the book club, and I just loved it so much both times. The best thing about the book is definitely the characters. It actually has a kind of a anime to lovers that is actually anime to lovers instead of being promoted as and then like falling in love in the first 50 pages. This is like the one of the few anime to lovers that I can stand behind and say it actually is, and it works so well. They have the best banter and hatred for each other, but you know they really love each other. Or do you? The world is also very dark and sad and grey, I would say, because it's very much like a lot of death, you know. But Gideon is just so hilarious. She is like our shield to this horrible world. Like, her lines, it's just the dialogue, it's great. What I know could turn off people for this though is maybe a bit of lack of world building. It could be like a lot of sentences thrown out and you don't really know what they're talking about. There's also a bunch of characters and I had no overview of them in the beginning whatsoever. There is like a overview of the characters in the beginning of the physical book, Dramatis Personalne, that I cannot pronounce, but you know what I mean. And I had to go back several times to look at it to know who we were talking about. And when I was listening to the audiobook, I could not do that because I didn't have the physical copy. So I was just like, I have no idea who you are, but we're gonna roll with it. Like, you get used to it and you realize that not all the characters are important, but I know some people really care about like knowing who everyone is. But you kind of just have to roll with it. The story itself is just so brilliant, and the characters are so great, and the book is just so fun that it's just all worth it. It's one of my favorite books, and it's my #1 favorite pick of all the books that I'm gonna talk about here, even though it does have its confusions and I can see a lot of people struggling with that. So keep it in mind, but also just like be open to that the book is amazing. I will also quickly mention that, as I said, there's a trilogy, so the sequel, Harrow the Ninth, is already out, and I have read this too and I absolutely adored it. It's very different from Gideon in a way that in this you actually don't know what's going on until like halfway. You have to get to the halfway mark to get the full picture. Like, it's really much a book you have to read to get the whole picture. The author did something brilliant here again, because it's so different from #1. You expect #2 to go straight after #1, but she doesn't. She decided to go a whole other route, and I just thought that was very brave and also done in a really good way. So the author's brilliance in their brain. I don't know how. A very unique series, a very, very fun adult fantasy. So please pick it up and let's go on to the next one because I talk way too much. The next book we read for Faes and Gaze was in August, and we read The City We Became by Anki Jemisin. This one is supposed to be, I think, a duology, but the sequels has not yet arrived, and I don't think we know much about them at the time as I'm filming this, and last time I checked. The concept of this book is that the different cities in the world are dying, and now we are, in this case, in New York. So we have 5 different avatars for the different boroughs of New York, and some of them are queer, and a lot of them are people of color, so we have great representation going in here. Basically, Anki Jemisin always has the most original and fun and interesting books that I have ever read, and that stays the same for this one. So I think that overall I just adore this whole book. It was just so exciting finding out why the city was dying, watching these characters meet each other and trying to work together. And I always have romanticized New York in my head, and just like being in the city and just seeing how it was kind of romanticized here too. I'm all for anything New York like that. This was our fantasy pick, but it's also sci-fi, but you don't really know of it until later in the book. So it's like unintentional sci-fi, but it's actually sci-fi and fantasy, so that was very interesting. The characters really shine on page, but I do wish that some characters got more page time than others. I would just remember the live show and the others didn't enjoy this as much as I did, and I think it's really funny because I really thoroughly enjoyed it. Like, I almost gave it like 5 stars, but it's really easy to see that people couldn't like this, but I personally would recommend it a lot. It does leave some questions and openings. After experiencing a couple of Anki Jemisin's books, I can just know that she has this grander, bigger picture and plans for the series. And I know that in the end, when we get to the end of the trilogy or duology or whatever it's gonna be, it would just all be like even more perfect than I thought it was in this one. My main complaint, if I'm gonna have one, was that it had a bit of confusing writing. Like in the battles and stuff, I had no idea what was going on, but I usually don't when I read battles, so I don't know, maybe it's just me. We recommend this a lot if it sounds interesting to you. I think just the whole concept is so awesome. Do pick it up, please. So the next book that we read for Faes and Gaze was Cinderella is Dead by Kellyn Bayron. This one is not really a Cinderella retelling, but kinda a Cinderella retelling. We are set in a world where Cinderella has been dead for 200 years, and her fairy tale has impacted the world a lot. So now every year, probably every year, they have this choosing ceremony where all the girls have to dress up as beautiful as Cinderella was 200 years ago and be chosen at this ball, just like Cinderella was, to become married. Our main character Sophie does not want that though. She is, first of all, a lesbian, so she's not interested to marry a man. And she, as it says so nicely behind on the bag, Sophie sets out on a journey that will make her world into the one she gets to choose. And it's basically just a very feminist book. The women here are in general very oppressed and not allowed to do things and like go home and make babies and food and stuff. And the main character just really is trying to fight away all that. And yay, this is a YA fantasy. Did I say? Probably not. It's a YA fantasy, so compared to the other ones that was like really adult and very complex and stuff, this is, I could say, much simpler, but therefore I can recommend this to a completely different audience. I personally enjoyed it a lot, even though like I'm old, I don't know how to describe it, but I have seen people saying that like it's too simple because maybe the world building, some parts of it should have been thought more true. But like as a YA fan, if you as a person haven't read as much, or you want to get more into reading, or you don't want like to use a lot of brain cells because, for example, Gideon takes a bit of brain cells, this you could just chillax through, then this is for you. Like, I can recommend this for anyone, and it's definitely like a book I would also recommend for people to get into reading because it's just reads so easily and fun. But yeah, generally I enjoyed this so much. I enjoyed all our picks, so like it's not really a surprise. I just thought it was fun, and the romance was cute, and the story was interesting and fun. I said fun like 4 times, I'm sorry. Yes, I do wish maybe like the plot twist had been a bit bigger because there was some confusion in the end, but like you can't have everything completely perfect. Not any of these books, in my opinion, is perfect. But there's still so much enjoyment here for so many people, so I recommend it a lot. The other book by the author, I think it's called Poison Heart, is coming out later this year in July. I will put it here so you can see. And this one is also a secret gardening retelling, and it's set in New York. It is also queer, I believe. So if this doesn't interest you, then pick up the other book by this author, because I definitely am. And again, can we appreciate this cover? I'm just saying. Our next pick was then The Bone Shard Daughter by Andrea Stewart. This one is also the first one in a duology or trilogy, I never know anymore. But the sequel is coming out later this year, but perhaps not, because we haven't really heard anything. But it's called The Bone Shard Emperor. So yeah, just know that this is the first in the series. Did I say that Cinderella's dead? Is this standalone? Because it is. I forgot to say if I... Yeah, this book I would say that I didn't enjoy as much as the other ones, but I would still recommend it, so that's what we're gonna do. This one also has a FF romance. There was a lot of FF we picked. We were like, oh my god, everything is FF, but it's fine. So we follow Lynn, who is the Emperor's daughter. She lost her memories as a child and is trying to earn back the right to be the heir to the Empire. And she's trying out to figure out like bone shard magic, because like there's a whole system of it, and it's actually very cool. So like the magic system is based that the king, or like the king's, I guess, constructions take a bone from every citizen in the whole kingdom, and they use those bones to power their like constructions, because they use things out of bones. But when they use those bones, the people the bones belong to, their life are kind of drained out of them, so they die and get sick and stuff much earlier than it would have unless like the bones weren't used. So like it's very dark how they use the people that way, and because of this the people want to rebel and go against it. But I thought that part was the most interesting part about the book. So we follow Lynn, who is like trying to figure out the Empire powers and like trying to oppress her father and like different stuff there, and realizing how the people were being treated. Like she knew it, but like I guess she didn't know it was wrong. We also follow another character named Jarvis, who is a smuggler, and he gets involved with like smuggling children away from like being taking out their bone shards and other stuff. And he's also looking for his wife that was missing. I forgot that part. It's like the main thing he does. I'm sorry. I'm gonna be like a bad reader because there's two more perspectives. It's actually three more perspectives. It's like one character who's like in this island and we don't know what they're doing. They're like picking fruit. So that is like a mystery. And there's two more characters and they are the one who is in a relationship, but I cannot for the life of me remember the names. I'm too lazy to look through the book. Their relationship was like a bit odd. It was like the big ship I would ship. And also thought it was weird that we followed both their perspectives because they are at the same place, so we just see like the same story fall out in two different perspectives, while the others were like in different places. I really enjoyed the first like 100 pages of this. Like I was like, oh my god, this is a 5-star read. It was so fascinating. I feel like in the middle it really dabbed out, like nothing really happened for me, and then in the end it really did pick up, and I'm very intrigued for the sequel. I know I sound a bit negative here, I'm sorry, it's like in my bones, I cannot stop. But I know like a lot of people enjoyed it and like didn't get bothered by like the flat middle part. It definitely does set up an interesting story. It just became like a bit repetitive and stuff for me, but I can definitely see so many people enjoy this. It was just so fascinating and the concept was so good, so I feel like when reading its sequels I will see if it was worth what this was setting up, and that is what I'm most excited for. And that is why I always feel like the first book, even though like it could have flaws like every book has, it really shows to shine in the sequels, and that is why I have hope that this will do, that the sequels be like really shine and like give like the whole perspective of like what we were missing here. It has so many interesting parts, very fun, like that confrontation in the end. I'm just like So yeah, I would recommend it. I am just excited to see where the story will go. So yeah, this is like a half recommendation video, half me wrapping up the books again. I don't know, but I feel like I need to give my thoughts to tell you why I recommend it. I have never filmed a YouTube video before, I don't know what I'm doing. If you can hear the wind, it's because it's super loud outside. It's very windy. Then I apologize for the noise in this video. The next book that we read was Cemetery Boys by Andrew Thomas. This book follows Adriel, who comes from a traditional Latinx family, and he wants to prove that he is a Brujo because people don't accept his gender, and therefore don't think that he is a real Brujo. He wants to do this traditional ceremony and bring back the ghost of his cousin Miguel, but instead bring back the ghost of someone named Julian Diaz. And then they decide that they're gonna help him, or like they're gonna help each other, I guess, and then take the ghost away again. But the more time they spend together, the more time, you know, he doesn't want him to go. And it was so good. I cannot stop smiling thinking about this book. Julian was just the most adorable boy, and Yadriel and them together, it was everything. A ghost boyfriend, I would take it any day, because I don't have one anyway, so like, yeah. The themes in this book, the story, the banter, everything about this book was like to perfection. This is Aidan Thomas's debut, and I'm so impressed of everything they managed to do here. I'm just like, my brain, the brain cells, that's like the whole live show when we had on this, I just sat there like, the brain cells. I say the word brain cells a lot, I'm sorry. Just like the representation of Latinx culture, people who are actually Latinx has praised it so highly. So that alone should pick you in. The trans representation, the I'm a romance representation, the fun ghost representation, is that even a thing? I don't even know. Even though like it is a story full of like light and hope, it also has like sad parts of it. Then I mean by like Julian being a brown boy going missing and no one really cares, and it shows in society it is like that when brown people go missing. Troubled brown people going missing, the society don't care, and it really represented here, and it's very sad, but also reality. But like, why world, why? Yadriel also gets help, for example, from his cousin Marcia, who is just hilarious. She was so great, and just like all the characters really shown on the page. It was fun, it was very fun. I enjoyed it immensely, and I recommend it a lot. Like, I feel like the whole of book world recommended this when it was being released, but now it's been a few months, it's been a bit quiet, so it's time to recommend it again. And hopefully like people are still picking this book up. I don't know, I can see book sales, I don't know what I'm talking about. But really, it was just the greatest thing. I feel like I complained so much on the other ones, but basically my main complaint in this is that I wish that some parts were just not done in the way they were done. I don't know how to describe it. I wish just a tiny bit more, but also I can see why it was done anyway. It was done. That was so vague, but I don't want to spoil anything. Maybe talk about it in the live show if you want to check that out. Basically almost a perfect book, because no book is perfect apparently in this video. I also have to mention that Aidan's next book, Lost in the Neverwoods, is coming out in April, so very soon. So if this maybe for some reason don't intrigue you, then pick up their next book. I am definitely very excited to see how this will be. It seems to be different, obviously different than this, since, you know, standalone. And yay! Now the last book that I'm going to talk about in this video is The Raymond Tower by Anne Leckie. So this one I would say is like the least favorite of all the books that we read, but I still did enjoy it. Just because like I gave it 3 stars doesn't mean that I could not recommend it on, because I feel like 3 stars is still like I liked it. It's just like that I liked it as much as the other ones, but I can still recommend it. I don't know, I was just like scared that someone would go into my Goodreads and be like, oh my god, but she only gave it 3 stars, why is she recommending it? Because I still liked it, okay? This one is basically set in this world where the people are protected by the raven, and then like the ruler needs to be sacrificed to the raven so that the raven will keep protecting them against these like things that are attacking them. This is also, by the way, did I say the genre? I forgot. This is a standalone adult fantasy. Cemetery Boys is a YA fantasy, and Born Our Daughter is just a fantasy. I don't think it's YA. Great work. I don't know if I said the genres. I cannot forget. I forgot. Anyway, this is a standalone again. What was I saying? Yeah. Okay, people need to be sacrificed to the people in the tower. And then like the prince comes back, like the son of the sacrifice. And then his uncle has kind of just taken the throne, and he's like, why? And then like he's trying to get it back. But we don't follow the prince. We follow like, I was gonna say, not his manservant, but like his like soldier kind of servant. And I have completely and utterly forgotten their name. Clearly, I was prepared for this. It's also like switch perspective sometimes. We follow like this god and like this history, and that was like the weirdest part of the book. That was why like my least favorite part of the book, because those parts were super confusing and I didn't like those. But it was still very interesting to find out about the tower, the secrets about the tower, finding out like what happened to the king, and like following our main character, who was very interesting. And I just thought like the whole mystery part of it was cool. And of course our main character is trans, so that is nice. My main complaint is that the book didn't have chapters, so that was very off-putting, because I like to finish a chapter and it didn't have it. Raymond Tower is definitely a really weird book. It's definitely very, very different. So I think that that's what makes it unique and fun, and why I could still recommend it to people, because even though like I didn't like all aspects of the book, which will take a lot actually, I can still just see so much fun and strangeness in it, and it still had like parts where I was like really, really immersed, and I really, really enjoyed some parts of it that were really strong. It says here on the front, like the quotes that Patrick Ross was said, "It's a delight to read something so different, so wonderful and strange." That is literally how I feel. It is a delight, but some parts were like a bit too strange. But nevertheless, I would still recommend it. And like, if you like weird fantasy, then go and pick this up. I thought that this would be a short video. I was like, oh, it would take like 10 minutes. That did not happen because I talked too much. If you enjoyed this, then tell me down below what kind of recommendation videos would you like to see from me. Do you want YA romance? Do you want a trope? Do you want a genre? Do you want a certain character? A certain plot? Tell me down below and I will see if I can get to it. Also, do you mind me talking this much in these, or do you want like just like a short synopsis and be like, read this instead of me saying like my thoughts and stuff? Tell me down below too, because now I got insecure and I need to know. Leave a Raymond emoji down below if you like this, or like a burn emoji, and you will see me soon in the video. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye. Oh, and I know I just said goodbye, but like remember to join Faes and Gaze, because I forgot to say in the end. Now goodbye again.